A very good morning to you, Defence Secretary. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. It's a pleasure.
Talk us through the rationale for adding 12 F-35As to the RAF squadron.
Thank you. This is a recognition, as our Strategic Defence Review said when we published it 3 weeks ago, that we're facing increasing threats, we're facing rising nuclear risks, and it recommended that we looked at buying this new type of jet. It recommended also that the UK considered playing a part in the established NATO nuclear mission. So that's what 3 weeks on we're announcing that we will do. We'll buy these jets. They'll allow us to train, do regular fast jet training. They'll do all the sort of combat missions for regular conventional 5th generation fast jets. But they'll also be capable in extreme circumstances of being able to participate in the nuclear mission for NATO. And by doing that, we're reinforcing the deterrence that NATO can provide to all 30, to help protect all 35 nations. And they're also reinforcing the program that this supports, 20,000 jobs right across Britain and another 100 plus companies in the supply chain. So this is about strengthening the alliance and the UK's contribution. It's about strengthening our industrial base, but it's also about strengthening NATO's deterrence and therefore protecting us all within the 32 NATO nations. And this will be part of what Keir Starmer tells the other NATO leaders this afternoon when they meet here in The Hague.
Let's just dive into why exactly. This is quite a big strategic change, both in the fact that currently our nuclear weapons are, of course, carried via submarine, but also we're not directly involved in the NATO first approach on nuclear weapons. The Defence Review, I think I'm right in saying, stopped short of explicitly recommending this. I think it suggested that we should explore it. And on top of that, Lord Robertson, who carried out the review in a Commons Select Committee hearing, said recently he wasn't enthusiastic about the UK having tactical nuclear weapons delivered by air. So this is a decision you're taking yourself without the support explicitly of the Defence Review?
No, the Defence Review, Lord Robertson's review, and he led it brilliantly, recommends that the UK considers playing an enhanced role in the NATO nuclear mission. This is the NATO nuclear mission. That's what we are announcing and have decided that we will do, entirely in line with the recommendations that we published 3 weeks ago. It's entirely separate from our... This is not the UK taking on and having a new UK nuclear weapon. It's playing a part in an established programme that carries US weapons in extreme circumstances. And it complements the continuing independent, sovereign NATO deterrent that we run from some of our submarines, and that has been our ultimate guarantor of security and the ultimate deterrent for us and for NATO allies for decades now.
Clearly, it's been announced that we're going to get to 3.5% of core defence spending by 2035. A significant uplift from where we are now. I get that 2035 is a way off. But in order to get there, then during the course of this Parliament, we need to make quite considerable headway to that number. Can we expect the Chancellor this autumn to outline how by 2029 this Parliament will get to, I guess, 2.8, 2.9% would be required if that pledge by 2035 is to be seen as credible?
Well, you're right. All 32 nations in NATO will sign up to a new benchmark, a new NATO target, if you like, of 5% in 2035. That is both core defence spending and the spending that we all need to do on wider national security. That's energy security, cyber security, border security. The question now is what we're doing. And we're increasing defence spending by $5 billion in this year. We'll increase over the next 2 years, the biggest increase since the end of the Cold War. And in this Parliament, we're showing exactly how we're going to pay for it. And so we've said that we will pay for that record increase in defence investment by switching money out of overseas development aid. And so just as we've done in this Parliament to set out and show how we pay for the increased defence spending as we look to meet the ambition in the next Parliament towards the bigger 5% benchmark in 2035. In the next Parliament, we'll also show how we will then pay for that.
But with all due respect, Defence Secretary, we're at 2.3, and you've outlined how by this Parliament you'll get to 2.5. It is entirely meaningless to claim by 2035 you'll get to 3.5 unless you now update what you're going to do this Parliament. You're essentially just saying, we'll leave it to the next government. It's got nothing to do with us.
No, on the contrary. Look, I spent last night with all 31 other defence ministers, and not a single defence minister and not a single one of the 32 governments will come to this NATO summit with a fully worked out 10-year budget plan. What people can see...
Defence Secretary, forgive me for interrupting. Forgive me for interrupting on this. We don't want 10 years, we want 4 years, the remainder of this Parliament. And if you don't get at least a third of the way to closing the gap of this pledge you're making, then it's entirely uncredible. And again, it's not just about you. I'm sure you want to spend it. It's about the Chancellor. If she doesn't outline how she will give you the money, this Parliament, to close that gap, this announcement is entirely uncredible.
Well, people can make their own judgments about what's credible. They can see that in this year, we're increasing defence spending by £5 billion. They can see in 2 years' time we will increase it to a record level that we've not seen in this country since 2010, a record increase since the end of the Cold War. They will see us moving money out of overseas development in order to fund what is the most important duty of government and responding to the threats. And they will see the way that we are using the increased defence spending as a defence dividend that helps reinforce the British industrial base, that brings jobs, high skills, new opportunities for young people right across the country. They'll make their own decisions about that. And just as we have shown, when we make a commitment, we say how we will meet it. In the next Parliament, we will also then set out how we will meet the ambition of 3% on the road to this new benchmark that the NATO leaders will agree this afternoon of 5% for core defence, as well as more national resilience and national security.
You're right, they will make a judgment. And what's clear today, Defence Secretary, is that despite this big announcement, there's no further spending from recent announcements onwards this Parliament. You're leaving all of the hard work to be done next Parliament, and I think a lot of people will see that that makes this seem highly uncredible. Let's talk about...
On the contrary, we're doing the hard work now. We're doing the hard work this year. We're doing the hard work over the next couple of years. We've made the hard decisions to switch overseas development aid funding into defence. And my job as Defence Secretary is to make sure that that brings not just stronger armed forces, greater British security, a stronger contribution to NATO, but it also brings the jobs, the skills, the opportunities that mean that we can benefit our economy and drive growth in this country as well.
Again, with all due respect, you're talking about how you'll spend the money you're given, not if you'll be given the money. I know we're close to out of time, so a quick final question. What is your understanding as to the scale of damage the US strike did to Iran's nuclear capabilities over the weekend?
Well, it's for the US to report any assessment they have of the battle damage from the bombing that they did of the nuclear installations in Iran. The important thing now is that we have a ceasefire. And when you hear the 32 leaders this afternoon here at the NATO summit discuss the Middle East, discuss this ceasefire, all, including President Trump, will be urging now a diplomatic path, because in the end, that's the way that we can best guarantee that Iran can never recover a program or never get a nuclear weapon in the future. But much more importantly, it's also the potential for bringing a wider stability and security to the Middle East. And that's something that you will hear Keir Starmer argue, President Trump argue, and there'll be a unified view from the 32 nations here.
Defence Secretary, thank you so much for your time. We always appreciate it.
Thank you very much.